Hey everyone! Welcome back to my channel. Today I really want to talk to you guys about what bullet journaling has taught me about mental health and a couple of self-care spreads that has really helped me learn these lessons as well. So if you also want to learn more about how you can use your bullet journal to learn more about your own mental health and practice self-care, then this video is gonna be perfect for you. For this video, I'm gonna be using this A5 bullet journal notebook from the brand To Be Tree Mary that you can find on Amazon. I'm also gonna be using some black dot grid paper that comes in the A5 Neapolitan notepad from Archer & Olive, along with some black and white pens, and the only other color that I'm gonna use is this gold metallic pen from Sakura Jelly Roll. So the first thing that my bullet journal has taught me about mental health and self-care is that there's really no one size fits all. Everyone is unique and everyone is complex. And just as how there's not a one size fits all for everyone when it comes to self-care, there might not also be a one-size-fits-all solution when it comes to ourselves. So sometimes we just need different things at different times. So one of the ways that you can use your bullet journal to help you with this is to create a spread with a lot of different self-care activities or different categories so that you can choose a self-care activity depending on what you need exactly at that time. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is take a black dot grid paper from the Archer & Olive Neapolitan notepad, and in this paper I really want to create a self-care menu for myself. So this was really inspired by looking at a blackboard menu when you go to a cafe. However, instead of ordering yourself a coffee or a dessert, this time you're gonna order a treat for yourself when it comes to a self-care activity. And so what I decided to do with this spread is break it down to different categories depending on what it is that you want to be feeling. So the spread is also super simple to create. The first thing that I like to do is just create a really nice banner to also give it the look of a blackboard menu. And what I'm gonna do next is divide the page into 5 different squares or rectangles, and each square is gonna represent a different self-care activity depending on the feeling that you're looking to achieve. So an example of a category that you can include in your self-care spread is a category of self-care activities that can help you feel more creative. So of course, you can definitely tailor these to the activities that you enjoy doing personally, but I also wanted to give you some of my personal examples to kind of give you some ideas and inspiration as well. So some things that I can include is digital art, playing an instrument, doing a calligraphy, or even just making a vision board for yourself. Anything that makes you feel creative can definitely go into this category. Another category that I really love to include in my self-care spreads in my bullet journal are also activities that help to make me feel beautiful and confident in my own skin. So this can be something like having a facial, getting a mani-pedi, or even doing a little photo shoot with yourself. And if you know that there is a certain category that you really gravitate towards and it's something that really gives you a lot of joy, definitely feel free to make a bigger section for that category so you can include a lot of the self-care activities that you really enjoy doing. So some other categories that you can include for this self-care spread are activities that help to make you feel healthy and strong. You can also include any activities that help you feel connected or any activities that also help to make you feel relaxed and calm. So once you created your blackboard self-care menu, feel free to just glue that onto your bullet journal so you can always have this on hand whenever you want to treat yourself. So if you're looking at the spread that we just created and you're thinking to yourself that you're not even sure of what you need sometimes, then this spread is gonna be perfect for you. So another thing that my bullet journal has taught me when it comes to self-care and mental health is that learning about my own patterns can really help me understand about my own personality. So in this spread, we're actually gonna create some columns that can really help us track our own patterns when it comes to our emotional needs and what actually helps to make us feel better. And what I really like about this spread is that even though it's super simple to create, it's actually very insightful, and this has been something that has really helped me understand myself the most when it comes to my self-care and my own mental health. So the first thing that we're gonna do to create this spread is just divide your page into 5 equal columns. So the first column for this self-care spread is going to be dedicated to the trigger, to our emotion. Now, I find this to work really well whenever you can get really detailed and specific about the trigger, but for this example, we'll just make a small column for you to start. Now, the second column is really a place for us to just label our emotion that we're feeling after that trigger. Next, you can also create a column for the self-care activity that you did after feeling that emotion, and then you can also create another column to rate how well that activity has worked for you. Now, what I also like to do is dedicate the last column as a tracker of how I was feeling before and after that self-care activity. And I'll give you two examples of how I can use this spread so that you can visually see how it looks like. So this is a personal experience for myself as well, but I think it's something that some of you might be able to relate with. But sometimes I notice that I'm feeling a little bit insecure after I spend too much time on social media. So something that I like to do is just unplug and go for a walk. And my favorite part about this spread is actually just noticing how I felt before and after that self-care activity. Now, let's say for example, you are feeling a little bit stressed when it comes to work or school, and so you decided to take a little bubble bath for yourself, but you notice that your feeling of stress didn't really improve after that. So by being able to track this, you could kind of see what activities are really helpful for you, and if you see that an activity wasn't really that helpful for that specific emotion, next time that you are facing this emotion, you can try to do something else and see if there's another activity that works better for you. Another thing that my bullet journal has taught me when it comes to my mental health is that even if not every day is good, there's always something good in every single day. And one of the bullet journal spreads that helped me recognize this was actually a one line a day page or even a memories page. There's a lot of different ways that you can create this spread. One of the simplest one is just write down a number for each date of the month and use that space to write down one line of something positive that happened throughout that day. But I also wanted to show you guys a different variation where for this self-care spread, I wanted to draw a one-page monthly log, and within this log, you can still write down one positive thing that happened in that day, or you can also use this space to make a little doodle to summarize what positive thing happened for you that day. If you feel like the space is a little bit too small for you here, you can also use both pages of your bullet journal to create an even bigger calendar so that you have more space to write or doodle for each date of the month. Now, this was definitely a spread that helped me stay optimistic, and it really forced me to look for something positive in each day. And I found this to be really helpful when I wanted to stop living in autopilot and I wanted to practice being more mindful. And I remember that before I added this spread into my bullet journal, I was starting to feel bored that every day was the same, and it was actually very hard for me to remember what I did in the previous days, and it kind of just felt that time was passing me by without me feeling like I really did anything meaningful in all of my days. So not only did the spread help me become more optimistic by practicing gratitude every day, it actually helped me become more present in my day-to-day life as well. It really helped me focus on the present and try to look for something good in every day, and it just made each day a lot more memorable in general. And even when you're having a rough day, it was really helpful for me to have this page to look back on, and it was a really great reminder that even if not every day is good, there's always something good in every day. You just have to be on the lookout for them. And once you finish creating your monthly log, what I like to do with this space at the bottom is just create another section for any highlights that you want to capture as well. Now, I really like to fill this out at the end of the month, and so you can just reflect on the previous month and kind of think back of what your favorite memories were and just write them here again if you want to go into more detail so that you can always remember them down the road. This next self-care spread is actually one of my recent favorites, and so I'm super excited to share it with you. And this self-care spread is actually focused on the different love languages. And if you're not familiar with the term love languages, basically the different love languages just really outlines how different people can experience and express love. And there's a couple of quizzes online that can help you discover what your love language is, but basically the 5 different love languages would be words of affirmation, quality quality time, acts of service, gifts, or physical touch. And the reason why I find this self-care bullet journal spread to be so effective is that it really focuses on tailoring the self-care activities that matches your own self-love language. And I found that really interesting because when I first learned about the different love languages, I was really focused on thinking about what my partner's love languages was and making sure that I'm expressing love in the way that they can receive it. And on the other hand, I actually never thought about applying these to myself and my own self-care. And it was really interesting because I came up with this bullet journal spread after I was seeing a reel on Instagram the other day where they were talking about how our go-to self-destructive behavior is usually the opposite of our primary love language. And in that video, the example they gave was that their go-to self-destructive behavior was extreme negative self-talk, and their primary love language was actually words of affirmation. And this is something that I can relate to as well because words of affirmation is actually my second love language. And I'll give you another personal example in that my go-to self-destructive behavior is actually forcing myself to work despite how tired I am, and my primary love language is actually quality time. And so this was a really nice revelation for me because the thing that gets me down the most is feeling burnt out, and now I can definitely see how this cycle is playing a big part of it. And so the idea that I had with this self-care spread is just for you to brainstorm all of the different activities that you can treat yourself in a way that really matches your love language. Now you can definitely just focus on your top two love languages. However, for this example, I wanted to show you the different ideas that I had when it comes to each love language. Now let me know in the comments down below if you know what your love language is, or if this is the first time that you've discovered about it, and let me know if there are any activities that you want to share as well. Because some of these are not my main love language, I'm not necessarily sure that these activities would be helpful for you, but these are just some of the ideas that I had. So for example, if your love language is words of affirmation, you can think about all of the different ways where you can hype yourself up. Maybe you want to write yourself a letter with all of the things that you love about yourself. If your love language is quality time, maybe you can think about having a nice weekend trip to yourself. If your love language is acts of service, maybe you can think about delegating some of your chores, or maybe doing some things that your future self will be happy with. If your love language is gifts, maybe you can schedule for gifts to be sent to you in the future so that it's still a surprise for you. And if your love language is physical touch, maybe you can spend some time to just cuddle up with the pet. The next thing that my bullet journal has really taught me about self-care and mental health is that whenever you're going through something that is difficult, it's always best to focus on all of the things that you can control. And these next two self-care spreads are quite unique in the way that we're actually going to use our bullet journal sideways. And the idea that I had for this self-care spread is to draw two circles that would kind of represent the image of glasses, and it would kind of represent the idea of us looking through the lenses of what we can actually control. And the way that you can use this spread in your bullet journal is whenever you're going through something difficult, or whenever you're feeling down about something, you can have a space to just write out what the situation is. And in these two circles, you want to separate the things that you can control and separate the things that are not within your control. And so this way you can actually reevaluate your situation through these lens of what are the things that you can't control and what are the things that you can control. The next thing that my bullet journal has taught me when it comes to mental health and self-care is that we're definitely our own worst critics. So it can be really helpful for you to just take the time, step back, and just celebrate yourself. And so for this self-care spread idea, it's going to be really focused on reminding yourself of how far you've come and just listing out all of your achievements. And when I say achievements, it doesn't have to be anything grand or big whatsoever. It can be the smallest things that you're proud of. As long as you're proud of it, just feel free to just write it out and celebrate yourself for it. Even if all you did this week was get through a really hard week, then that also deserves a pat in the back, and I'm super proud of you. And so for this self-care spread, the idea that I had is to create a timeline for you to be able to list out all of the achievements that you had within this timeline. And there's a lot of different ways that you can customize it. Let's say you want to just focus on your academic career. You can create this timeline that is focused on your academic career and all of your academic achievements within that time frame. You can also focus on a certain year, a certain month, or you can even do this for your whole life if you want to. You can also think about doing this for a specific project or a specific area in your life. So the example that I'm showing you here is actually a timeline that reflects my YouTube journey. And so I created the timeline from when I started my channel and just listed out all of the different milestones and achievements that I got during this time frame. And of course, none of these achievements wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for you. So thank you so much for supporting my channel, whether it's by watching my video, leaving a like, leaving a comment, sharing my video, or even subscribing. All of these really mean a lot to me. So thank you guys so much for being able to make these milestones possible for me. So I'd love to know if you also use your bullet journal to take care of your mental health and self-care. If you mainly use your bullet journal for productivity, then I highly recommend that you watch this video here where I talk about the different daily spreads that you can include in your bullet journal. It really focuses on how you can maximize each day, so that video is gonna be perfect for you. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.